All right, everybody. You guys are tuned in to the Chris Huff Show here on Spirit 105.1 FM. Listen, for the first guest of the first episode of the Chris Huff Show, I reached out to somebody that inspires me. There's not a lot of people you'll see doing comedy at a high level and being able to keep it family friendly. That I think people don't understand what that takes because I do stand up myself, maybe not on a level like comedian Akintunde here. But listen, there's you won't find anybody better doing it. So let me give you some of his highlights. He is a national known comedian, writer, producer, in the game over 20 years. He's been on BET, written for some of the biggest in the game. And listen, I want to welcome y'all and introduce y'all to comedian Akintunde. How are you doing, man?
What's up, Chris? How you doing, good brother?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Man, two steps above phenomenal and getting better, sir.
Hey, that's all we can do. Listen, I
Yes,
want to tell
sir.
y'all, when I reached out to Akintunde, it wasn't even a hesitation on his end. He was like, even though I want to talk down on myself, but people don't really know me, it wasn't a hesitation. It wasn't like a tell me your accolades, tell me what this is. He was unequivocally yes, and that really that really meant a lot to me because there's a few people, Griff from Get Up Mornings with Eric Campbell, he was the same way. Comedian level
Wow.
Big O, who we're introducing in a couple of weeks and interviewing those guys later on too. They all have the same heart
Yeah.
and passion. I appreciate somebody who's still trying to make their way up the ladder. I appreciate you guys lending a hand to me.
Oh man, no problem, brother. Brother, I appreciate your heart. I sensed your heart through the message.
Yes,
And
sir.
a lot of times, people just make it all either about the platform, or how many views or audience you have, or even money. And for
Right.
me, it ain't about none of that. It's about what we do, what I consider the ministry, and I consider it an honor to be on your show. So did I hear you right? This is the number one, the first broadcast.
The first episode of the Chris Huff Show.
What? So you mean to
Yes.
tell me in 42 years, when we're talking about the Chris Huff show, I'll be able to say I was the first guest?
Listen, you'll be a part of history.
Man, come on, bro. I
Listen.
am on it. Come on, man. This is history.
I appreciate you, Mr. Akintunde. So let me get it. I got some questions I want to ask you. So, what
Yeah.
made you realize, or who kind of inspired you to do comedy?
Well, I always wanted to do stand up. I mean, to me, it sounded like it was something afar. It wasn't something that was obtainable. I'm from Savannah, Georgia. Savannah, Georgia is not the comedy mecca of the world by any stretch of the
Right,
words. And at the time, I was a master barber working in the barber shop. And I was in college, and I essentially, wanted to take a shot at it, and
right,
heard about the Comedy House theater that opened up in Savannah, Georgia. And I had there was a comedian who that actually worked in the city, and he asked me to manage him. He was like, "Hey man, I'd done a hair show. I put a hair show on." He was like, "Man, you put that together real well." And he
right,
said, "Man, why don't you manage me?" And I'm like, I'm 20, I'm 21, whatever I was, 22
right,
maybe. I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll manage it. Man, I messed up every deal he had. He had stuff. All I had to do, Chris, was go in and close it. It was already set
right,
up. I just had to confirm it. I messed
right,
all that up. And operate from a place of ignorance and cockiness. And he called me one day, a guy named JC Falk. I never forget it. He called me. He said, "Ak, JC Falk here." I said, "Hey, JC." He said, "Ak, you're fired. You're a horrible manager."
right.
We said, "But you're funny." So I'm taking you to a comedy club. Meet me at the Comedy House Theater Tuesday night, 8 o'clock p.m. And I'm putting you on stage. And he got me a spot on open
Mhm.
mic night.
Wow.
And literally, as he likes to say, the rest is history. That's how I started my comedy career.
So God was probably working through him.
Yeah,
What you might have thought was the end ended up being the beginning for you.
but a total beginning. Again, I thought it was, I didn't know how to get started. I was interested in it, and I
Right.
didn't know how to get started. And I was funny in the barbershop. Funny in the barbershop doesn't mean you're funny on stage, you know.
Listen,
So,
say that again for the people in the back.
funny in the barbershop does
Mm.
not mean you funny on stage. Just because you
Right.
funny at the family reunion, you're
I
funny
don't,
at in the break room at work. That don't mean you're funny on stage.
I don't know who that's for, but somebody needs to let that sizzle in the spirit. Um, so yeah, you were talking about you're on stage. So what was your first time on stage like? Like, how do you think you did?
I did. It was shaky. It was pretty good. I don't remember so much the first part, but I remember the last part. My uncle Isaac Warnock, he gave me a joke, like a stock joke, and
Right,
it was pretty vulgar, but it was very funny. I actually used that joke for
right,
probably the better part of my first year doing stand up. But he gave me that joke, and that joke ripped. It just tore up the room. It
wow,
was my impression of a one armed man counting his change. Now, if you've ever seen that joke before, then you know how terrible it is. If you have not seen it, then I don't want you to even try to imagine, what the punchline and what the physicality of that joke is. But that was that was a joke that he gave me, and I say it was a stock joke, but I think my uncle Ike might have wrote that. He was funny in his own right.
right. Um, so let me ask you this because I watched your special, I think the most recent
Okay.
one you did, and
Okay.
we they have just heard a clip about you and your wife, you were in an argument and you lost your keys and you didn't want to talk to her. I feel like when I'm writing, I feel like the best stuff when I'm writing is real
Yeah.
life.
Yes.
How much would you say is what you write is real life?
I would say probably about I would say about 80% of it. A lot of times for me, stand up is either what I believe, what my opinions are about a particular topic, whether that's politics, whether that is children, whether that is adults, whatever. It always comes from a place of truth. I would say about I would say 80 to 90% of the stuff that I'm doing on stage is something that actually happened. And what you do is sometimes you take and you accentuate certain parts,
Right,
or you take and you might remix something a little bit for them to make it work a little better. That case, that's a purely
right,
straight up true story. That's
right,
facts. That's marriage 101. That's Akintunde 101. So
right.
yeah, the majority of the stuff I do is from a place of truth. I like it that way because man, that means I'm gonna never run out of material.
No, absolutely. I heard comedian Bruce say one day he was like, I don't tell jokes, I take real life stories and make them funny. And he
Yeah.
was like, so when I get done talking, I don't say peace out. I just walk off stage and he turned around and walked off. And I thought that was one of the funniest things that I've seen. I'm gonna throw a curveball at you because I know you still doing radio?
Well, kind of, sort of. I'm actually
Okay.
right now charting my course back in. I stopped doing
Okay.
radio. I was co-host on the Pasolini's Praise Party, formerly known as the Sunday Show, and
Right.
then when that show ended, now nearly a year ago, we kind of looking at what the next steps are. So I'm charting my course back into the syndicated radio landscape currently.
Okay.
Yeah,
What was that transition like from you going from stage? I'm asking you this from a personal point of view because
sure.
I feel like going from stand up to the stage or from stage to radio is
Hmm.
to me, again, this is not like my first episode. I co-hosted a couple episodes before, but it's almost
Hmm.
seamless. Like it's just natural, like a natural feeling. Like I didn't find it difficult. How would you
Yeah.
say it was for you?
Yeah, it's definitely not a difficult leap. Most people who do stand up to get on radio and be comfortable either talking or being funny, it's not a big stretch. The difference is the timing is different. I
Right.
tell people all the time, radio is about split second timing. If me and you having a conversation and you say something funny, or a caller says something funny, or something about a news story is funny. Let's say you were reading the show. Let's say you're leading the show. It's like a punch. I have a hair split second space to punch that joke in and get
Right.
out. If I don't do it there and I wait, 20 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, it's not funny anymore.
Right.
And I remember somebody would say something and I'd be like, or and even before either I hesitated or but there's been time I've had, hosts before that would block me, which would kind
Right.
of like literally whether it be turn my mic off or
Hmm.
literally block kind of block me set picks. I call them picks in the
Right.
conversation where I couldn't get in. And then I would try to bring that funny moment back a little bit later on. Now it's done.
Right.
And radio is about, it's a different timing, but it's still timing. Comedy is all about timing. Whether you're
Yes.
writing for somebody else, whether you're doing it on stage, or whether you're doing it on radio, even on social media, it's all about timing.
Right. And that was kind of my next question. Did you feel like comedy is more of timing, delivery, a mix of the two, something different?
I think it's definitely a mix of the two, because if
Yeah.
you can have the best timing and the best joke, but if your timing and your delivery is off, that
Right.
that you might as well get that joke to somebody else.
Yeah.
And so I think it's definitely a combination of timing and delivery. And timing, you only get timing
Mhm.
from reps.
Right.
Like comedy is all about reps. It's all about getting on stage and exercising over and over and over. And you will see, there was years ago. This is something we need to get back to in the Christian comedy, gospel comedy space. We're actually trying to do it, but I missed the opportunity to be on one stage for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days straight,
Right.
doing 2 shows a night, 3 shows a night. Recently I did not Chris Tucker's Comedy Club. I was working with Chris Tucker at the Atlanta Comedy Theater, and it was 3 nights of shows, twice per night. Man, I hadn't done that in years. And just
Right.
the reps, the repetition, you finding different elements in the joke, even though these are jokes that I've done before. Some of it was new, but some of it was stuff that was well seasoned. And I was able to find new places because of
Right.
the reps. So the reps give you the timing. The reps,
Right.
that gives you that delivery, and really makes that whole process excellence. That presentation is excellent.
Okay. Um, what's something you think that people assume about comedians that maybe isn't true? Like, what's the perception about comedians?
One of the biggest ones for me is that, and people do this to me a lot of times. Um, People assume that I'm being funny all the time,
Man,
and
listen,
and
man,
same thing for you, Chris.
listen. You can't have a bad day. You can't be in a bad mood.
Yeah,
You can't be funny all the time. It's like, man,
yeah,
just give me a minute to just back up.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Like,
people ask my wife, I bet he's just hilarious and funny all the time at home. She's like,
right,
oh no, he's not. Like, for me, I'm very comfortable being off.
right,
You know, it's like when I'm off stage, I'm off stage. I'm not the dude who's at lunch or dinner
right,
cracking jokes.
right.
If something is funny in this conversation, okay, I might say something funny, but I'm
Yeah,
not at the you ever, I don't know if you ever done this. You ever been out with a comic, and you realize you're doing material. Like, why are you doing material at Waffle House? Bro, let's just talk. Let's have a conversation. This is not the time to do material. Not unless you're saying, I'm bouncing this off you, help
right,
me put this joke. But if that's
right.
not the case, yeah, let's have a conversation. Let's be people. And
I
I
could
think
pick,
that's one of the things, my
right.
issues.
I could picture you sitting with somebody, and then I could just picture you realizing what they're doing, trying to bounce ideas off you, and you're like, wait a minute, I know what you're trying to do. Like,
And
just
Chris,
turn it
hear
off.
me. I don't mind somebody bouncing an idea off me.
Right,
That's cool, right? But
right.
my issue is, if you want to bounce an idea, say so.
Yeah,
But don't be sitting at the table. Like, this is years ago. We would be out, on the road, and you got a couple of young ladies that came up to the table from the show, and they like, oh, can we sit with y'all? And I'm like, even by the time I'm mad, I'm like, no, not really. The other comedian like, oh yeah, come on. And then, then they sit down, and I'm like, dude is doing material. Like, this is
right,
stand up. Why you
right,
you trying to impress these ladies
right,
with stand up? Man, talk. Have a
right.
conversation. That's my
No,
thing. Comedians aren't always. Some people do, but we're
right.
not always trying to be funny. We're not always being on. I tell people all the time. I say, if you work as a landscape artist during the day, you don't want to come home and cut your neighbor's grass.
Listen,
You know what I'm saying?
you need time to take it off and be yourself. Because I know that you do a lot of characters. I'm gonna ask you about some of those in a minute, but
Yeah.
there's times where I could be on stage making people laugh or t having people laugh just in person, and then I can
Mhm.
go in my car and I'm just like, man. It's just a mental thing for me, I think, because
Yeah,
you're so tired of having to be funny all the time or put on a persona per se
right,
that
right,
you can't be yourself. I think
right.
that's why some
That's right.
comedians struggle with depression and suicide, like Robin Williams when he committed suicide. People, I was like, man, I get it because he's been so many different characters, and he probably want people probably wanted him to be those characters over and over again. Nobody wanted to just see Robin. They forget that
Right,
he was Robin first before he was Mrs. Doubtfire or Jeannie or whoever it may be.
right, right. And the thing about that, to your point on that, sometimes depending on who you are and where your comedy comes from, you have to go someplace so deep that when you come out of that, there's a void left.
Mhm.
And I think it's like people who play a lot of video games. They're one of the biggest elements of depression today is it's an addiction to dopamine. And when you're constantly dopamine hitting your mind, your brain all the time, when you're not doing something like playing a video game or watching TV or listening to music, and you're just sitting, you can slip into a state of depression because your brain is so used to having that sugar, which is dopamine. Dopamine is like sugar for your brain. And a
Right.
person like Robin Williams, who's constantly on, he was constantly being funny, constantly performing. I think some people when they go to real life, like Monday morning, I got to go down and get my tag or take my new driver's license pictures. That's a little bit too mundane for some people sometimes, and they can't function properly.
Right. No, it's definitely difficult. I tell people all the time that comedy for me is a lot of times therapy because it's cheaper than therapy. So I go on there. I'm talking about all my problems. Like I'm trying to make them funny because I'm trying to hide behind them. And
Yeah,
sometimes I don't
yeah,
think people understand that the things I'm talking about, like I might be talking about a relationship in the past or a relationship with a
yeah,
family member or something like that. But I'm trying
yeah.
to hide behind it. But it makes me feel better making other people laugh. So it's almost like a cheap therapy session for me.
Exactly. I fully agree, sir.
Yes. So, who is somebody or maybe a few people that you haven't worked with in the comedy game, whether it be writing, working with on stage that you haven't worked with that you would say you want to work with?
Wow. Um, I really want to work with Monique again, but in a feature film standpoint.
Right.
She is an amazing actress,
Yes.
like next level. And I mean, of course, she won an Oscar, and a lot of
Right.
people, gave her props for Precious. But I realized in the film, I think it was the Bessie Smith story. That wasn't the name of the movie, but the movie she did with Queen Latifah on HBO, where she played Ma Rainey. I remember watching her sitting in the train, because Ma Rainey moved around on a train in the movie, and in her life, she traveled on a train. She had her own train. So the scene was set in the train, and Queen Latifah came in to audition, and or try to talk with her and introduce herself. And I remember the presence that Monique had on screen, quite frankly, that Queen Latifah did not. And it took me aback because I recognized she has the ability to take up or totally consume a scene. If you
Right.
if you're in a scene with somebody like her and you're not on your 100% top game, she will overshine you and you'll be asking for a retake simply
Right.
because she's just that good. And
Yeah.
I would love to work with her somewhere at some point in the future from a direct in a directorial capacity. Me being able to direct her. Writing for her was great, and she's very generous as a talent, as a producer, and as a boss. But she was, very very giving, and would give great feedback, and you never didn't know where you stood with her, and I appreciate that.
Right. In case you're just now tuning in, you're listening to the Chris Huff Show. We're here, joined by the one and only comedian Akintunde. I see, I want to talk about it because I see it right behind you right there, the Joke Farm. Tell us about what you got going on with that.
Man, Chris, I'm so excited. I'm not just excited for myself. I'm excited for people like you as well, because Joke Farm is a place for comedians who either are Christian comedians or clean comedians. We now have a home now on Joke Farm, and I always say one of our taglines is a pure, organic, fully sustainable stand up comedy. And another one is always clean, always funny Joke Farm. And it is a full service television network that'll be available on Roku TV, Apple TV, Android, iOS, and Google Play, and of course on the joke-farm.com website. And it is a place where you can see stand-up comedy specials, podcasts. We have a full game show that's currently in development. We have a sitcom in development, and we have multiple talk/podcast formats that or even are various topics and types of shows. And I like it because, of course, I'm gonna bring back my Ox show. That was one of the things I was telling you about concerning my kind of negotiating with myself and God about how I bring the show back. But in addition to that, it is a great opportunity for me to offer a platform for other creators, other people with a unique point of view, other people who are more ministry focused than stardom focused, people who
Right.
really want to utilize their gift, their stand up to be funny, to be a blessing to people. And I understand we have to generate income and make money as well, but that's not where we start. That's a byproduct. And I'm excited about it. We launch on Mother's Day Sunday, May 11th. I'll be on the road. We're touring that weekend. We'll be in Brooklyn, New York on that Wednesday. That Friday we'll be in Connecticut. That Sunday we'll be in Philadelphia in the morning. And then two shows at a comedy club in Atlantic City, New Jersey that afternoon. And we're getting out there, hitting the road, promoting, talking about Joke Farm, and prayerfully getting people to turn on, download that app, and go experience high definition stand-up comedy in excellence.
Okay. Um, so I'm gonna have you give out your socials and how they can learn more about Joke Farm again at the end. I don't want to keep holding you up, so I got two more things for you. So, what's one thing
Sure.
you wish that somebody had told you before getting into comedy?
Wow. Wow. One thing I wish somebody had told me before getting into comedy. Don't expect people to do for you necessarily what you would do for them or others.
Mm,
I
that's a
think
big.
that's a tough one when you realize that, oh, okay, not everybody operates like you. I want to sound like a victim either, because I've been helped like big time. I've had a lot of people to help me like do some major things, awesome things for me. I have an immense amount of favor. One of the blessings on my life is supernatural favor. Even when I made mistakes and messed up, I've had
Right.
supernatural favor in those situations. So I'm not sounding like a victim when I say that. I'm
Right.
saying sometimes what happens is because you operate and think a certain way, you enter situations, business, relationships, partnerships, even without handling the full business or taking care of all the details, because you're going to show up full tilt on 10 just
Right.
based on relationship. Sometimes everybody doesn't do that. And so when you expect that and then you make decisions based on that, when those things don't happen, it can put you in a precarious and compromising situation. I'll tell you one thing that I am thankful that I listened to. And not that it was a problem, but it just definitely solidified my thinking, my position towards this. Don DC Curry, the first time I ever got paid as a comedian, past being an open micer, I went to
Mm,
Augusta, Georgia, and I opened up for Don DC Curry. And I made $75, Chris. I never forget. That $75 felt like wow,
right.
$75. Man, I had enough money for gas there and back, and I could go to the grocery store and buy some food for my wife and my two sons at the time. I'm like, man,
Right.
that's awesome. And but I remember that I went to do that show, and in the green room, I think either before the show or after the show, he was like, so man, so you married, huh? And I was like, yeah. He was like, man, I'm telling you, watch out for these women out here, boy. I tell you, they tear your relationship up. Now I'm telling you, he said these heifers is dirty, man. I'm like, what? He's like, oh, they terrible. I said,
Right.
he was like, man, the woman sent her panties to my house. I was like,
Oh Lord.
oh, God, Jesus. And again, it
Oh.
wasn't like that was a necessarily an issue for me per se, but
Right.
you never know if your guard is down
Oh yeah.
what situation you can get into. And I need to clarify at this point, I'm not saved yet. All
Right.
right. So the flesh is still real,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And so I appreciate Don DC Curry for giving me that strong advice, man. Be
Yeah,
careful, fellas. Stay in the house,
I can
stay
hear
out these
him.
streets.
I can hear him saying that in his voice too.
Yeah.
Um, so,
Yeah.
so last thing for you, I'm gonna ask every comedian that I interview. I'm put you in a corner here. Give me your top five comedians that are alive.
Oh my
They could
gosh.
be
Chris.
people that make you
Oh,
laugh the most, people that inspired you the most.
oh,
Um,
oh, oh. Top five comedians dead or alive. Um, man, Richard Pryor is my number one, straight up.
you hear that all the
Um,
time.
yeah, I mean, nobody did it like has done it like Richard Pryor. Okay.
And listen, church
Um,
folks, don't y'all be tripping because listen,
yeah,
like I
you didn't say top five Christian comedians.
right, I said top five overall. There's
Yeah,
not been
you
a
said
lot of Christian comedians around, and we need to change that.
yeah.
So somebody's gonna be listening to this. Oh, he said Richard Pryor. I'm cutting this off. Don't do that.
No,
Y'all,
don't do that.
y'all ain't been.
No.
Let's clean out your own closets first.
And here's the thing. Just let me go there for a minute. Here's the thing. I cannot. I remember for years I walked around like suppressing every musical urge that I ever had. Right.
Mhm.
Then I found out people who I helped, who I held on my Mount Rushmore faith,
Mhm.
and stuff they was like listening to and playing. I'm like, oh,
Listen.
really?
Oh man.
Really? Oh,
Listen.
okay. Didn't know. so,
Right.
so, but I would say definitely Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy. I'm kind of moving out of order here. Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby would be a strong number two. Bill Cosby was an
Yeah.
amazing storyteller.
People get
Um,
mad at me when I still keep him in his top five. I say, listen, God only knows, but I know that watching watching Bill growing up was it was a free master class almost.
yeah,
Pay
yeah.
attention.
Again, you didn't say the most righteous comedians, top
Right.
five righteous, most righteous comedians,
Right.
the comedians who with the best past or the most trustworthy comedian. I wouldn't drink nothing from Bill. I would,
Oh no. I'm not gonna be able to get Bill on the show now. Bill, if you're listening for some reason, uh we-
Bill and Chris, and we was backstage and your wife or your girlfriend picked up a cup round Bill. I was like,
listen,
put
I'm
that down.
we need some bottled water. We need to hit a little crack with it. We need to hit a
I need you
little crack.
bring it. I need to open it. No, no, no. Let me open it. Thank you, sir. No.
Oh Lord, I forget kicked off already. Oh
But no, Bill Cosby, Eddie Murphy,
prior.
Broderick Rice.
Okay.
Broderick Rice is one of the most unsung, hilarious people. Impressions, just I had the nerve to follow him one night in Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh man.
That was some work right there. Took me about 8 minutes to climb out that hole he left on stage. Um, let's see who I mentioned, Broderick, right? And I would round it out with Dave Chappelle.
Okay.
I would say Dave Chappelle.
Dave,
Dave Chappelle is totally unnecessarily vulgar. Like
right,
Dave, I'm like Dave, why you cut so much? It's not even necessary, bro.
right,
But his point of view and the fact that he's so comfortable with his opinion
right.
is extremely inspiring to me.
I hear all the time that he's one of the smartest comedians that people have been around.
My God.
Um, man, so
Quick Dave Chappelle story. So
mhm.
Dave Chappelle is on stage in LA
Okay.
and Dave Chappelle is having a rough night.
Hmm.
The audience, because what he does is he'll go in a room, a comedy club, and because of who he is, his status, even back then, this is like 27, over 27 years. I've been doing comedy 30 plus years.
Right,
He's been doing so. This is like in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s. Dave Chappelle, he's on stage, and to be clear, I wasn't in the room for this.
Okay.
This was comic lore. This became a legendary comedian story of how he did this.
Right.
It is said that he was having a rough set, and the crowd turned on him, and the crowd started booing. And then he was like, okay, guys, all right. And they kept booing, And he was like, and he said, hold up, man. He said, out here in California, y'all don't know how to boo. I'm from the East Coast. We know how to boo. If you're gonna boo, boo. Let me show y'all how to boo. Everybody, count on the count of three. Y'all boo. And he made the whole room boo him. He's like,
Wow.
there we go. That's how if you're gonna boo somebody, that's how you do it. And then
Right.
sat down to transition right back into his set. And
Wow.
and the comedian in the room was like, bro, that was genius. that was
Listen,
genius.
Dave is definitely he's definitely one of one. Um, Real quickly, how can they be reached
Sure.
and how can they find out the joke farm?
They can log on to joke-farm.com. That's joke-farm.com. That's our website.